Pleasant welcome to another edition of the program Familiarise with the Law, coming to you from Star Television, Channel 21, where we broadcast live from Media One Center, 3 Mama Street, Bookfields in Freeton. My name is Abdul Rahman Kamara. In today's edition of the program, I have as my studio guest Edwin M. Kamara, Head Benefits Division, National Insurance Social Security Trust. Good day and welcome to the program.
Yeah, good afternoon and thank you for welcoming me.
Okay, today we're going to take our time off to look at the critical work the Head Benefit Division within NASSIT is actually doing, your responsibilities, your mandates, what is stipulated in the Act that is actually, that gives, the division its right to execute its mandate. When we talk of the Head Benefit Division within NASSIT, what are we purely referring to here?
Yeah, thank you very much again. Of course, let me broadly look at the institution.
Okay.
The institution came into existence as a result of a law that was enacted in 2001, the NASSIT Act number 5. And of course, NASSIT started its operations in 2002 with a clear mandate. If you look at the NASSIT Act, it clearly stipulates the mandate of the trust. One, that is an act of parliament, which means it is informed by law. And secondly, that it is the law that gives power to this institution to provide, to administer a social security scheme that provides income replacement to individuals who would retire and who would get invalid, and of course those who would die, to their beneficiaries. And of course the law made it very clearly that the scheme can take on board any act of paying social security benefit or pension scheme. So basically, when you look at it, if I can read verbatim from the act, it says it's being an act that was established, an act to establish the National Social Security and Insurance Trust and Social Security Scheme to provide retirement and other benefits to meet the contingency needs of workers and their dependents, and to provide for other related matters. And under the other related matters, of course, as the scheme continues its the implementation of this law, other benefits would emerge depending on how equipped or how advanced the scheme is to take on board the other matters. Like, for example, when the scheme was established, along the line of its work, along the line of implementing this act, government engaged NASSIT in order to transfer the payment of government pensions, which, of course, an MOU was reached and that payment was transferred. Along the line also, along the line of implementation, National Power Authority then NPA came into an understanding with NASSIT to take on board the NPA pensioners. So as the scheme continues its operations, we believe other institutions that are administering private pensions, who might see that, in fact, in terms of capacity, in terms of technical expertise, NASSIT has that expertise, they will transfer such administration to NASSIT. And also, as the scheme continues to grow, other contingencies, if you look at...
So this is what we have at the end of the month. You will hear public notices across the country.
Across the country.
For pensioners, you meet at place A for your pension, for all of those things. We keep getting all of those, public notices in the radio and all that.
Yes, truly, the notices you're talking about are purely in respect of the government pensions, which NASSIT, is administering on behalf of government. When, for our own scheme, the NASSIT scheme, our pensioners are paid through the banking system. Because, one, we want to ease the burden on our members to be assembling at our different regional offices to pick up their benefits. So, as such, we transferred that responsibility to the bank so that, one, they will go there as and when they want to pick up their pensions. Because if the payments are done in our offices, timelines are given, timetables are announced, like it's done on a monthly basis. But since the pensions are paid directly into your account, it means I can go to my account as and when I want to pick up money from my account.
Okay, given this category that you've just highlighted here, could we come to the conclusion to understand that for those pensioners that the government has allotted to you to actually execute on their behalf, are they actual beneficiaries of the scheme?
The question could be yes and no. The reason for the yes is that
you are undertaking the exercise.
We are undertaking the exercise. That is one. We are administering on behalf of NASSIT. And also those members who are government pensioners who are within eligible age, well, within the age to be members of the NASSIT scheme, also became members of the NASSIT scheme and contributed. So, as such, these two payments are informed by two different laws.
Okay.
One, for the government pension, is informed by the State Salaries, Pensions, Gratuities and Pensions Act. And there are other laws that also inform other government pensions. For the NASSIT pension, which is contributory, is informed by the NASSIT Act. So, it means I may qualify under other pension laws and also be a contributor to NASSIT scheme. Like, for example, you take the case of the parliamentarians. There is a Parliamentary Pension Act that informs the decision on pensions. For them, if you serve a term, you become a parliamentary pensioner, a government pensioner. And since we are administering on behalf of government, it means that person can as well receive government pension and be a NASSIT pensioner, depending on whether the person meets the qualifying conditions to become a NASSIT pensioner.
Okay, Edwin, let's look at what constitutes the actual job of the head benefit division at NASSIT over the years.
Very good. The head benefits. Of course, the benefits division, generally, our job is to pay all benefits. We are working for the people. We are working for our contributors. When a member retires or a member dies or becomes invalid in the course of his or her engagement with the scheme, those payments are directly under our purview. And we have a responsibility of paying accurately, promptly, and of course the right beneficiaries. Now my job as the head of benefits division is to supervise that process. And also to support, there is a director of this division, to support the director on policy issues, and of course take instructions as and when she gives the instructions and implements. In other words, I am the operations person in the division. The director deals with policies. And of course, I will also carry out any other assignments that will be given to me by management.
And in other words, you've been doing your designated responsibility effectively over the years.
Yes, of course. I would say yes, because in all of the appraisals, my supervisor has always given me a good appraisal. So that tells me I've been doing it well.
I hope you will continue on that trend.
I will always commit myself to doing more.
Okay. Now let's come to look at a very important aspect that borders around the question of invalidity pensioners and the wounded in action. Over time, we've seen pretty much of a chaotic situation at the HQ of NASSIT, where wounded in action could just take upon themselves. I don't know whether they have the local standard to actually move to your headquarters and request for whatever thing they've requested over the years. But the public has been trying to understand as to where did the problem begin, and what has been the leverage that has been given over time by way of addressing their demands over the years. Can you take us through on some of those things?
Yeah, thank you very much. The issue of the WIA, like I said, NASSIT had an understanding with government to take over government pensions, the payment of government pensions. And the WIA you have just requested an explanation for happens to be a category of the government pensions that we are administering. As the name implies, WIA means Wounded in Action. It's an acronym for Wounded in Action. Our country had a very ugly history in terms of the 11 years rebel war, in which the military recruited a good number of Sierra Leoneans. Then, yes. And immediately after the war, some who had medical conditions that could not permit them to take up further military activities were discharged on medical grounds. And these ones form the category of the WIA. They were government pensioners. They were transferred to us in May 2004. These people were also, even though they were transferred in 2004, when NASSIT took over, when the operations of NASSIT commenced, these people were on the military payroll. They were on the payroll, contributions were paid for them. Of course, NASSIT did not know their medical status as at then. It was only in 2008 that we actually started receiving an influx of application from this category of our members for invalidity benefits. But by then, we had the first batch and the second batch of the WIA pensions on the government pension payroll, and we were administering that one. So we started recording an increase in the number from 2008 upwards. The trust looked at their situation. Initially, from a technical perspective, the contingencies for which these people were applying were actually not covered by the trust, by the scheme, because these contingencies occurred prior to 2002, when NASSIT actually started its operations. So, because contributions were received on their behalf, the trust decided, instead of refunding these contributions, they said, let us process and give them a lump sum payment, which will be better off. That was the initial policy decision that was reached. Technically, in terms, even let's say, for example, you are going in for a private insurance. You had a car that had accident 2-3 years ago, and you insure yourself now. Will that insurance cover that car? The answer will be no, because by then you had not been part of the insurance company. So from that same line of argument, you would say these contingencies for which these people are applying for these benefits actually occurred prior to 2002, during the war era. So technically, they were not supposed to be part of this scheme. But since NASSIT has NASSIT looked at it from a different policy perspective, that since these people had contributed to the scheme, even though government did not tell us their medical conditions and that contributions were received for them, let us pay them one-off. That was a decision that was initially reached. And all of them that applied received one-off payment as at then. But along the line, policies.
This was a category the military then tagged as mentally, chronically and mentally.
Yes, they also had problems with the military that description,
yes,
which I don't want to use that description because they had problems with the military in terms of the way they were attacked.
They were attacked, yes.
Of course, to a very large extent, they took the
employer
to the Human Rights Commission that they had stigmatized them, and in fact, the issue was handled.
The rest is history.
Yes, it's history. But apparently, NASSIT, having the face of humanity, decided to look at this issue, especially when we realize that most of these people had dependents who were very, very young. They had spouses who were very, very young. The management decided to look at the policy again. Since we had situations where members of this category, the easy invalidity category, would lose their lives, and their dependents would send in an application. So we realized that the one-off payment could have deprived the rest of the dependent children and the spouses.
Okay.
So management looked at it again with the eye of humanity. They said, let us look at it from this perspective.
It was a worthy consideration then.
Yes. So they decided to review the policy. And the policy was reviewed last year, that we should consider them having pensions. So that even though their contingencies had occurred before NASSIT came into existence, so that their dependents would not be disenfranchised from receiving pensions upon the death of an invalid pensioner. So management looked at it and came to a conclusion that indeed we should reassess them. We should recalculate their benefits and pay them an arrears from the time they qualified to be pensioners.
Quickly, Edwin, how many of them are we talking about here?
We are talking about a number up to 500.
500 of them?
Yes.
Do you at any point in time experience a swell in that number?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Initially, the increase in the number of applicants in that category actually started in 2008. And of course, going down the line, it continued to increase, meaning more people were discharged who were in that category of WIA. Like I told you, the initial WIA, they were discharged in batches. The first batch, second batch, as the case might be. And even as at now, I think a day before yesterday, we also received an addition to that payroll. So it means a good number of them are still in the army who fall within that category. Apparently,
before you come, apologies. Let me understand something clear here. On the aspect of invalidity pensioners, if the condition of an individual is curable, could that automatically stop the pension?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. The WIA pension, like I said, is government pension. And government pension has its own peculiarities. One, it is non-contributory. Two, the pension stops up when the pensioner dies. Those are peculiar situations with these WIA payments, which makes it different from the invalidity you're talking about. The invalidity pensions is informed by law. It has its qualifying conditions. It has determination conditions. That is when a member would cease to be an invalidity pensioner. The law is very clear on that. If you have an opportunity to read our act, the NASSIT Act, if you turn to section 43 of the NASSIT Act, it tells you clearly who qualifies and when a member would cease to be an invalidity pensioner. Of course, the cessation is very clear. One, it's on medical grounds that the same act established the medical board that would certify that an individual, a contributor, is invalid.
So there is no law that gives right to a sibling of the pensioner to become a claimant to the right of pension of that individual.
Well,
it is not stipulated in the act.
It is. When an invalidity pensioner dies, the dependents would apply for survivor's benefit.
Okay.
So it was on that consideration that management decided to review the decision, the policy decision that was taken a few years down the line that I spoke about.
Okay.
Because we knew as a trust that this category of our members have very young dependents, and this category of our member had very young spouses. If they happen to pass away, the society has to take care of those dependents. So it was against that background that management decided to review that initial policy decision that was reached.
Any attempt was made then for the commission, is it a NASSIT, for the trust to actually let them understand the underscoring elements in all of these in the acts?
Yes, I would say
could better guide them.
I would say yes, because from inception, from the time of registration, NASSIT would engage in public education, even when they are in the training school, even when they are in their different military locations. NASSIT severally, I can attest to that, we have made public education in institutions. And severally, of course, the qualifying conditions are all in our jingles. They are all in the public notices that we send. And there is a whole division that is responsible for public education, which I believe they are doing effectively. And when you look around, you even see our service charter that clearly defines what qualifies you for each of the categories of the benefit that we pay.
Fast forward to all of these that you've just highlighted, what are some of the driving factors that actually provoke these people now and again to assemble at the forecourt of the NASSIT headquarters, making many demands?
Well, probably I would only read their minds, because the decision for them to assemble at our offices frequently rests with them. But I would say, if I could read their minds, is that one, they believe they have an issue with us, and that issue is we have payments for them.
Do you have payment for them?
We are administering the WIA payment. We are administering the WIA payment, which is a government payment on behalf of government. And equally, the issue of the invalidity that I have just taken my time to explain is also, of course, it's a NASSIT benefit. And like I said, we decided to recompute their benefits, and we paid arrears. During the payment of the arrears, we decided that, okay, it's taking a long time for proper pension administration. All over the world, they would verify the physical presence of the pensioner. So in that payment, in the payment of that arrears, we decided to do a physical verification of them. But since this particular benefit they are claiming is informed by law, and the law stipulates that a medical board should assess to ascertain whether these people still meet the qualifying conditions, that is the medical condition for which they are receiving this benefit still exists.
Are they subjecting themselves for physical verification?
Well, we started it. A good number turned up. A good number are still to turn up. Which is why, in fact, we have sent out announcements that by Wednesday the 17th and the 18th,
that is tomorrow,
we'll still have the medical board stationed at Labour Congress Hall to reassess those who have not gone through reassessment. Because we have said it in categorical terms, if you are not reassessed, we cannot ascertain whether you still qualify to receive these benefits, because pensions are subject to verification.
Okay. Upon this calling for them to assemble at the Labour Congress, are they actually cooperating?
We would think that they will cooperate, because even without inviting them, they have been coming to our offices. Now that there is a program for them to be reassessed, because initially we had done this reassessment, like I said, we did it countrywide. We even made the medical board to travel right through the country to reassess them at their locations. Those who did not turn up are the people that are now coming to cause problem at our regional offices, especially the head office. Because we had said, if you do not go through the reassessment,
this category of persons you're talking about, they do hold a legitimate reason to come to your office and inform you that we failed to turn up, but we're now here to actually assist you.
Exactly, it would have been as simple as that. Because initially, NASSIT had provided all the opportunities for you to be reassessed. It was a huge cost on the trust, but because we wanted them to be reassessed consistent with the law, if I can read section 43.3, which talks about entitlement to invalidity pension and cessation. If a medical board determines that the member is no longer an invalid, or if the member commences work other than work which is determined by the medical board as beneficial for rehabilitation, these are the things that brings about cessation. Or C, at the age of 60, at which point it is converted to old age pension. Now, the medical board has to reassess you to determine that medical conditions based on this stipulated requirement.
Yes.
Medical conditions are never static. I can be examined today,
fitted,
and
well fitted. Tomorrow,
okay,
it could be otherwise.
Tomorrow, I can be examined with a different result. So, as at that time, the medical board took the decision that they were invalid. It's years back. So, for us to still continue paying for this contingency, they have to be reassessed. For some countries, in fact, they do it on annual basis.
Well, they choose to be invalid because they want the package.
No, naturally, they would. But the Act also makes provision for a rejoinder to the scheme. Okay. That is, if you look at the regulation, section 30, subsection 4, talks about an invalid who has recovered. An invalid who rejoins the scheme as a contributor after he has been certified by a medical board to have fully recovered shall not lose the previous contributions. Okay. So for me, there is an opportunity that they are missing. If I had been assessed to be invalid at some point, and along the line, I happen to get improvements in my medical condition and pick up a job that probably would have better income, better earning than my previous job, it's good for me, because at the end of the day, even though I had collected some amount of money in pensions from NASSIT, the law is now saying when I retire, old age, they will compute my benefit as if I have not taken any cent from NASSIT.
But perhaps it boils down to the
So
understanding.
that's what I'm saying. The law is very, very friendly and takes good care of invalids when you read the law. So even when you may have picked up a job, one, it gives you the opportunity for your benefit to be computed on higher earnings, which makes your pension better. It gives you the opportunity to probably continue working.
Edwin, I think we don't seem to be having much time left. What I think constitutes the bulk of the challenge is for the trust to enhance on their public education. This, you may want to agree with me, perhaps, on a very serious consideration that it's worth a while for you to educate people, especially so, because when I look at this point, what you've just read, to a larger extent, should have solved the entire problem for them, and they should have capitalized on this. But not knowing that particular clause, for them is pretty much of a challenge. Conclusively, what will be done, especially tomorrow and Thursday, by way of giving them a reassurance?
Okay, I would agree with you to a very large extent on the public education, yes. Because public education itself is a continuous process.
Exactly.
And most times, I would always say, considering the category of people that we are dealing with and their level of education, probably it will be better to
for constant engagement,
and probably to engage them in the languages they would understand.
Exactly.
Rather than going too Western, the way we are having it. But it's an issue that would also, management is poised at ensuring that every member gets adequate information about the scheme.
Okay.
Now, for this verification tomorrow, we are expecting that those who have not gone through the reassessment, the medical board reassessment, should come to the Labour Congress Hall, which is at Wallace Johnson Street at the back of Big Markets, for them to be reassessed. And in coming, there are documents that we are demanding from them. One will be your pension card. If you do not have a pension card, you can bring your payment slip, because any payment that is done at NASSIT will give them payment advice. And we also would want them to come along with their discharge books.
Okay.
Discharge book and any other form of identification. It could be your national ID card, it could be your driver's license if you have one, it could be your passport book, because we want to ascertain a few details. Then we would also expect them to come with their bank ID cards, or if you have a bank book, you can come with a copy of your bank book, because we want to get their banking information updated.
In the absence of all of this documentation, Sam, you risk the chance of being verified.
Well, the reassessment will still go on.
Okay.
But we would require those documents, because the reassessment it has a medical component that might not be looking for these documents.
Okay.
You can still be reassessed medically, but we will demand all of these documents, because one, especially in recent times, the banks are stressing on BBAN numbers. If we are to pay you into an account, means we have to authenticate that account details.
Okay.
So we would request you to have that one.
Okay.
If you say I'm discharged from the military, because we've had situations where a lot of impersonations have been done. Of course, we have apprehended a few.
This is the reason why you're making a kind of due diligence.
Yes, that is why we are requesting them to bring their discharge books and many other documents. So it's like we are verifying, and we are also doing some due diligence on this category of our members.
That's a very good one, but I would rather want to re-emphasize on the aspect of public education.
I accept.
Especially so
that will strengthen
localizing the communication outfit of it.
I perfectly agree with you. It's a continuous process, and we'll intensify it.
Okay.
And especially, like you said, those fine details. I am sure for a lot of people know what the qualifying conditions are now.
Okay.
They know the type of benefits we pay, but a lot of people need to know what causes delays in the payment of their
and when
benefits,
pensions have to be terminated.
and when pensions have to be terminated.
On this note,
what happens with the payment?
I want to thank you so much, Edwin M. Kamara, Head Benefit Division, NASSIT, for sparing this opportunity, being my guest in this wonderful program today. Thank you so much for honoring this invitation.
And thank you very much for hosting me, and I look forward to many more opportunities of this nature, so that we'll continue to educate our members, especially on the issues of updating their information. And
so you do WIAs, I will encourage you rather to ensure that your process be filed tomorrow and Thursday for a physical verification exercise to avoid an undue confrontation with NASSIT authorities. On this note, this is how I bring down the curtain into this edition of the program. My guest has been Edwin M. Kamara, Head Benefit Division, NASSIT. Till then, my name is Abdul Rahman Kamara. Have a blessed day.